You know that specific kind of heat? The kind that feels heavy almost. Almost oppressive. It's not just warm, it's like a physical weight sitting on your chest.
Yeah, pressure.
That is the atmosphere we're stepping into today. We're doing a deep dive into Lost River by Stephen Booth, and honestly, the weather in this book it's almost a character in itself.
It's atmospheric pressure as a narrative device.
Mm-hmm.
Booth does this incredibly well. He uses the environment, specifically this sweltering, unnatural heat of a bank holiday, to ratchet up the tension before a single crime is even committed.
And it's a bank holiday in the Peak District. If you've ever been to a UK national park on a bank holiday, you know exactly what that looks like. It's supposed to be this idyllic escape into nature, but...
But in reality, it's a traffic jam with better scenery.
Exactly. You have thousands of people just cramming into these narrow valleys, desperate to relax, which, ironically makes the whole thing incredibly stressful.
That's the core irony of the setting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have Dovedale, which is this stunning limestone gorge in Derbyshire. And, ideally, it's a place of solitude and reflection.
Right.
But on this specific Monday, it's a pressure cooker. And right in the middle of this crushing crowd, we have the inciting incident of the book.
A child drowns.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't a spoiler, by the way. This happens right out of the gate. But before we even get to the tragedy, we need to set the stage for our guides through this whole nightmare. We're following two detectives who, well, they effectively hate each other, or at least they operate on completely different frequencies. DC Ben Cooper and DS Diane Fry.
The dynamic between Cooper and Fry is really the engine of this entire series, but in Lost River, that dynamic is shifted. Usually, Fry is the superior officer, she's the boss.
She is the boss.
But here, she's taking a leave of absence to deal with a personal trauma, and Cooper, who is usually the junior, kind of the learner, is stepping up as acting detective sergeant.
That acting title is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It's like being the substitute teacher, but, with life or death stakes.
Right.
Cooper is the heart of the duo. He's a local lad, son of a famous copper, deeply embedded in the rural community. He knows the farmers, he knows the landscape, he runs on intuition.
Whereas Fry is the head. She's an urbanite, originally from the Black Country, transplanted to this rural setting she fundamentally doesn't understand or trust.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
She relies on procedure, evidence, and a very, very cynical view of human nature. Cooper looks at a field and sees history. Fry looks at a field and sees a place to hide a body.
And in this deep dive, those two worldviews are going to be tested because they aren't just working a case together. They're split up.
Totally separate.
Cooper is handling the drowning in Dovedale, and Fry is heading back to Birmingham, the city she escaped, to confront her own demons. It's a split narrative. You've got rural noir meets urban grittiness.
Rural noir is a term that gets thrown around a lot, but it's worth defining here. Because Booth is, he's a master of it. It's not just crime in the country. It's a subversion of the pastoral ideal. In classic literature, the city is where corruption lives, and the countryside is where you go to be purified.
Right, the escape.
Rural noir just flips that, is it? The city might be dangerous, but the countryside is indifferent. The rocks and the rivers, they don't care if you die. In fact, they might just swallow you whole.
Which brings us right to the river dove. Let's just walk through this scene for a minute because the sensory details they're overwhelming.
They really are.
Cooper is off duty. He's out for a run, trying to clear his head. And the way he describes the river isn't poetic, it's visceral. He talks about seeing long streams of blood swirling in the current like eels.
That imagery is so specific and disturbing. Like eels, it suggests that the blood isn't just a fluid, it's something alive, something predatory.
Yeah.
Cooper is seeing this before he even registers the scream. His brain is processing the visual horror before the auditory chaos even kicks in.
And when the chaos does kick in, it's so disorienting. He hears screaming, but he can't tell if it's birds or humans. And that's a terrifying thought, that a scream of pure human despair can just blend in with the background noise of nature.
It speaks to that indifference we just mentioned. The landscape just absorbs the tragedy.
Right.
So Cooper dives in, and we have to remember, it's a scorching hot day, but the water in the Dove is freezing. That thermal shock alone is enough to kill someone. He pulls out this little girl, Emily Neild.
8 years old.
The description of her dress is what got me. A green summer dress tangled like weeds. It's like the river has already claimed her, turning her into just another piece of vegetation.
Exactly.
Cooper tries to save her, obviously. He's the hero type, but he's too late.
And this is where the procedural element really clashes with the emotional one. A child dying in a river is tragic, but it's not necessarily a crime. The initial assumption by everyone on the scene, the uniformed officers, the paramedics, is that this is a terrible accident. Right. Kids play near water, rocks are slippery, tragedy ensues. It's misadventure. That's the official term they'd use.
A misadventure.
But Cooper can't accept that, and this is where we have to ask. Is he seeing something real, or is he projecting?
It's a great question.
He looks at the parents, the Neilds. You've got Robert and Dawn and the older brother Alex. They aren't wailing, they aren't running around in a panic like the other tourists. They are standing apart.
It's the isolation of the family unit that triggers Cooper's radar. But there's a specific image he fixates on. Before the body was recovered, he saw the father, Robert Neild, standing on the bank with his hands raised, water dripping from his fingers. And Cooper describes it as looking like a priest performing a blessing.
That is such a bizarre image. A blessing in the middle of drowning. It's weird.
Or perhaps a baptism. Or maybe he was just washing his hands. The ambiguity is the point. Cooper interprets it as ritualistic, almost religious. But a more cynical cop might say he was wet because he was trying to save his kid and he held his hands up in despair. Cooper chooses the interpretation that implies meaning or perhaps complicity.
And the official story they give is the classic tragedy script. The dog, a golden retriever named Buster, went into the water for a stick. Emily went in to get the dog. The dog came out. Emily didn't.
It's clean. It makes sense.
He makes too much sense.
It fits the box perfectly. But Cooper remembers the blood. He remembers the head injury. Now, the coroner or the superiors might say she hit a rock in the current. But Cooper's gut is just screaming that the physics don't line up. Why was there so much blood for a simple slip and fall?
Right. And then there's the behavior at the hospital. Cooper drives them home because, understandably they can't drive. But the vibe in that car isn't just grief, it's silence. It's a vacuum. And when Cooper talks to Robert Neild later, the guy is weirdly polite.
It's the composure that rattles Cooper. Neild is wearing these chino shirt cuffs turned back, a very managed appearance. He thanks Cooper for doing his best. It just feels rehearsed.
Yeah.
It feels like a man managing a PR crisis rather than a father whose world has just ended. But again, we have to check our bias here. Everyone grieves differently. Shock can look like indifference.
That's true.
Is Cooper criminalizing a man for not crying the way Cooper thinks he should cry?
That's the danger of the intuition-based policing Cooper loves so much. But then the universe throws him a bone. Or rather, a letter, an anonymous letter addressed simply to Police Officer Cooper.
This changes the landscape completely. The letter is specific. It says, you should look into Mr. Robert Neild. He's not all he seems. The man is a sinful beast.
Sinful beast? Who talks like that in the 21st century?
Nobody.
That's not slang. That's Old Testament.
Exactly. It frames the accusation in moral, relatable terms, not legal ones. It doesn't say Robert Neild is a murderer. It says he's a sinful beast. It implies a history of moral transgression.
And it validates Cooper's suspicion.
It does. But his boss, D.I. Hitchens, he dismisses it immediately. Hitchens is looking at the budget and the statistics. An accidental drowning is a closed file. A murder investigation based on a poison pen letter is a resource black hole.
A nightmare for the bosses.
A total nightmare.
So Cooper is effectively going rogue. He's acting sergeant, so he has a bit of a leash, and he uses it to pull at the threads of this family. And the strangest thread of all is the brother, Alex.
Alex Neild.
Oh.
13 years old. This is a fascinating character study. Cooper finds him in his bedroom, just totally absorbed in a computer game.
War Tribe. Now, we see this trope a lot in media, the disaffected gamer kid. But Booth does something really interesting here. He doesn't just use the game as a prop. He uses it to explain Alex's psychology.
Right. It's not just kid plays violent games. It's about agency.
Yeah.
In the real world, Alex is powerless. His sister is dead. His mother's controlling. We find out she checks his browser history. She locks down his life.
Total control.
But in War Tribe, Alex is the Smoke Lord.
Smoke Lord.
He controls armies. He has fire catapults. He can burn villages to the ground.
That is a heavy handle for a 13-year-old. He talks about leaving his enemies as smoking ruins. It's classic displacement. He can't destroy the things hurting him in real life, so he destroys pixels.
But there's a darker overlap. Alex is a photographer.
Oh, right.
He was taking pictures at Dovedale that day. He claims he photographs textures, bark, water, stone. He says he edits people out because they ruin the pattern.
That line gave me the creeps. I edit them out.
Yeah.
It implies he sees people as pollution, as an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And Cooper has to wonder, did Alex see what happened to his sister? Did he photograph it? Or did he just edit her out of the narrative just like he edits tourists out of his landscapes?
It suggests a level of dissociation that rivals his father's. The whole family seems to be operating in their own separate realities.
Yeah.
But while Cooper is digging into the family, he also has to deal with this external threat, the predator.
This is one of those details that feels like it's straight out of a horror movie. While Cooper was running to save Emily, he looked up and saw a figure perched high on a natural arch of rock, just watching.
And Cooper, with that encyclopedic local knowledge, he tracks him down. It's a man named Sean Deacon, a registered sex offender working in the kitchen of a local hotel.
I mean, that's the perfect suspect.
It's the perfect suspect. He was there. He has a record. He was watching.
Yeah.
Case closed, right?
Cooper goes to confront him, expecting to find a monster. He finds a guy peeling potatoes or washing dishes who is just terrifyingly calm.
Yeah.
And Deacon drops this whole philosophy on him, falling and flying.
This is a crucial thematic anchor for the whole book. Deacon admits he likes high places. He says you can only do one or the other, fly or fall. He believes there is no middle ground in life. You're either ascending or you are plummeting.
It's such a nihilistic worldview. But what's interesting is that Deacon identifies with the flying part. Even though society sees him as having fallen as low as you can possibly go, he's a pariah.
Cooper is unsettled because Deacon doesn't act guilty. He acts like an observer. He watched the girl drown with the same detachment he watches everything else. He's a watcher. In a way, he's a dark mirror to Cooper. Cooper watches to protect. Deacon watches to consume, to understand. We don't know. But he complicates the simple narrative of family did it versus it was an accident.
So while Cooper is wrestling with these philosophical potato peelers in the countryside, we absolutely need to talk about the other half of this deep dive, Diane Fry.
Yes.
Because while the Dovedale plot is a mystery, the Birmingham plot is a full-blown psychological thriller.
And the transition is so stark. We move from the green, open, rushing silence of the peaks to the concrete claustrophobia of Birmingham. The Spaghetti Junction.
For those who haven't had the pleasure, Spaghetti Junction is this tangle of motorways that looks like a concrete bowl of pasta dropped from space. It's loud, it's confusing, and it just smells like exhaust. Fry is driving into this, and she is physically reacting. She's sweating. She feels sick.
Booth uses the heat differently here. In Dovedale, the heat was heavy and natural. In Birmingham, the heat is trapped. It's bouncing off concrete and glass. It's sticking to her skin.
And Fry describes the Selfridges building, this iconic bulbous structure covered in silver discs, as a Daleks ball gown.
Which is funny, but also alien. It highlights that this city, which used to be her home, has mutated. It's not the Birmingham she left.
That's a key source of her anxiety. It's the uncanny valley effect applied to a city. It's familiar enough to be recognized, but different enough to be disturbing. And she's back because she is the victim, the IP, or injured party, in a cold case review of her own rape.
We have to pause on that term, IP.
It sounds like intellectual property. It's so clinical, it's horrible.
That's the point. The police system, which Fry usually wields as a weapon, turns on her. She meets D.I. Gareth Blake and a counselor, Rachel Murchison. Blake is a peer, someone she might have worked with, but now he's sitting on the other side of the desk.
The dynamic must be so uncomfortable.
And use terms like attrition rate, which refers to the massive number of rape cases that never result in a conviction and evidential stage.
It's dehumanizing. Fry is realizing that to the system, she is just a statistic that is, likely to fail.
Yeah.
And then the blow comes. They had a DNA hit. They had a witness. That the witness has pulled out.
Intimidation. It's the classic roadblock in organized crime cases. But for Fry, it's personal. It means the system she believes in, the head approach to justice, is broken. She can't rely on the procedure because the procedure is leaking.
So she does something incredibly masochistic. She goes back to the scene, Digbeth, the custard factory. Now today, Digbeth is cool. It's all street art, craft beer, hipsters.
Yeah, it's very trendy.
But Fry remembers the waste ground.
And this is where the water imagery reconnects so powerfully. In Derbyshire, we had the river Dove Loud, rushing, washing things away.
Right.
In Birmingham, we have the River Rhea. It's a hidden river.
Yeah.
Most of it is culverted, running underground through concrete tunnels. It's dark, it's stagnant, and it carries the city's waste.
So she stands there near this hidden river, and the memory hits her, not just the visual, but the auditory. She hears the taunting, brummy voice of her attackers. She calls them coppers, Not as in police, but as in the smell of blood and cheap metal.
It's a visceral flashback. She realizes that the gentrification, the cool arts quarter, is just a layer of paint over the trauma. The rot is still underneath, just like the river is still running under the concrete.
She feels like a ghost in her own life.
Absolutely.
And speaking of ghosts, Section 4 is literally called Ghosts of the Past. Because Fry isn't just haunting the crime scene, she's haunting her old life. She visits her foster parents, the Bowskills.
This scene is heartbreaking because it shows us the softness Fry usually hides. Jim and Ellis Bowskill are good people. They took her in. But Fry feels this immense guilt.
Yeah.
She's the one who made it. She became a detective sergeant. She got out. But she cut them off to do it.
And Jim mentions a name, Janet Dyson. He says, oh, you remember Janet, your best friend? And Fry. She just draws a complete blank.
Total blank. That is terrifying. It implies that her brain has walled off entire sections of her childhood to protect her. If she can't remember her best friend, what else has she forgotten? What other truths is she suppressing?
It's a huge red flag for her own memory. The Bowskills also mention their adopted son, Vincent. He had a troubled path. This sets up the contrast. Fry is the success, Vincent is the failure. But then Fry goes to meet her sister, Angie, and we see that success was, well, it's relative.
Angie is the dark mirror. She's the one who stayed behind, the one who fell into addiction and chaos. They meet in a bar on Broad Street, and the dynamic is just toxic.
Oh, it's awful.
Angie resents Diane for being the prig, the good one.
But here's the twist. Diane needs Angie. The police system, D.I. Blake and his team, they're failing. The witness is gone. So Diane Fry, the stickler for rules,
Miss Procedure herself.
she asks her street-smart former addict sister to help her track down leads.
It's a desperate move. It marks the moment Fry abandons the head and starts using the heart, or at least the gut. She knows Angie can go places a cop can't. She's leveraging her sister's trauma to solve her own. It's morally gray, to say the least.
And if that wasn't noir enough for you, she also meets an old colleague, Andy Cooley, in a literal cemetery, the Jewelry Quarter catacombs.
The setting is perfect. A sunken amphitheater of the dead to discuss the death of a case. Cooley is the voice of cynicism. He tells her essentially, forget it, Diane.
Just drop it.
He hints that there's corruption involved. A lawyer named William Leeson who turned informant.
And this is where the paranoia really sets in. Cooley suggests that the high-ranking officers might be protecting Leeson, or at least burying the case, for political reasons. Community cohesion, he calls it.
It's the ultimate betrayal. The institution Fry dedicated her life to is actively working against her to protect a stats sheet. She is completely alone. She can't trust the criminals, and she can't trust the cops.
So let's bring these two strands together. We're in Section 5 here. Convergence. We have Cooper in the country, staring at a rushing river, convinced a family is lying.
Right.
We have Fry in the city, staring at a hidden river, convinced the police are lying.
They are both fighting currents. Cooper is fighting the current of indifference. Everyone wants to believe it was an accident because that's easier, it's cleaner.
And Fry is fighting the current of corruption. Everyone wants to bury her case because that's politically expedient.
And in doing so, both detectives are being forced to abandon their usual methods. Cooper, the intuitive one, is desperately hunting for hard evidence, forensics, photos, letters, anything to prove his gut feeling. And Fry, the evidence-based one, is forced to rely on shadowy informants and her sister's word because the evidence has vanished. They've swapped roles.
They've completely swapped roles. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. And let's talk about missing time. In Dovedale, Cooper realizes the witnesses are useless. No one saw the girl go in. There's a gap. A crucial few minutes where no one was watching her.
That gap is where the truth hides. Just like the gap in Fry's memory about Janet Dyson. Booth is suggesting that we can never truly know the past. We reconstruct it, and often we reconstruct it wrong.
So where does this leave us? We're reaching the end of the hour, and typically this is where we'd wrap up the mystery with a nice bow. But Lost River, it doesn't really do bows.
No. Not at all. As we close the book, the Dovedale case is still officially an accident. The funeral is happening. But Cooper isn't letting go. He's digging deeper into the Neild family, convinced that the accident was actually a result of negligence or maybe even malice.
He believes the sinful beast letter.
He does.
And Fry. She's in even deeper water. She's lost her star witness, but she's gained a dangerous lead. She knows there's a conspiracy now. She's terrified, but she's also furious. And I feel like a furious Diane Fry is not someone you want to mess with.
Absolutely not. She's stopped waiting for a rescue. She's going to burn it all down if she has to.
Which brings us back to that haunting phrase from Sean Deacon, the man on the rock, falling and flying.
It's the question we have to leave you with. In the face of a tragedy like a child dying, do we desperately look for a pattern, a crime, or a villain? Because the alternative is just too scary.
The alternative being that it was just random, just a slippery rock, no one's fault.
Exactly. Randomness is terrifying. If it was a murder, we can catch the bad guy and restore order. If it was an accident, there is no order to restore. Maybe Cooper is inventing a mystery to cope with his failure to save her.
He needs it to be a crime so he can solve it.
So he can be the hero.
And for Fry, can digging up the past ever really be flying? Or is she just jumping off a cliff and hoping she learns to fly before she hits the bottom?
I think she's already falling. The question is, who is she going to grab onto on the way down?
Well, on that cheerful note, we are going to wrap up this deep dive into Lost River. It's a book that leaves you feeling a bit cold, a bit damp, and very suspicious of quiet families and loud rivers.
And grateful for dry land.
Amen to that. Thanks for listening, everyone. Check your locks, watch your step, and maybe don't go swimming in the Dove this weekend.
Take care.